Welcome back to Pack Rat Shack's Just Get Her Done series. If you have been following along, you already know what projects we have gotten done on my house. We have refinished the shutters, repaired and repainted some bad sections of siding, refinished both the decks, completed Stormy's space inside and out, refinished my doors, refinished Nova's room after she moved out, refinished the living room and the hallway, and then as most of the kitties were moving out, we refinished the kitty room. But we still have much to do. For the sale of this house, I need to build a door to the basement, install a handrail at the stairs, finish my pallet wall project, and of course much more. Let's see what I've accomplished this week. In order to install this handrail, which would pass any possible inspections for the sale of this house, we actually have to build the wall first. You may be wondering why there isn't already a wall in place, when there is obviously another wall already there at the bottom corner running perpendicular away from the stairs. Well, that's because of me. Yet again, it's another project that I started and did not complete yet. I always intended to separate this mechanical room area from the rest of the basement. The reason that I delayed in building this wall in the first place was simply because of lighting. There was no lighting inside the mechanical room area, so leaving this wall open was the only light for a time being. I tried to position this wall that I previously built in line with the stairs. It looks like I did, but as I'm measuring and arranging the location of where my new wall will be, I'm finding out that I'm actually about an inch off. And now you can see what I mean. I put my level where the wall will be going, and this is the space that will be between the end of my new wall and the existing wall. I also have to figure out the open space for the entrance into the mechanical room. There will be no door down here, it's just an opening into the space. In all honesty, I always planned it that way because there's no need for a door, but more currently the issue is the whole NIPSCO changing of the electric box location. The new electric box is going right here. And while one would be working in the breaker box location, you need a little bit of room around that space. You don't want to keep hitting your head or slamming your back into the end of another wall. So I'm actually going to stop the wall a little bit shorter to allow for this wider opening. Now that I have all my measurements and exact location, I can get to building my wall. I actually made it a bit too tight, and after Mom helped me lift it into place, it took quite a while for me to beat it into place. So after I'm done with beating this wall into place and making sure it's level, I go ahead and I secure the top by screwing it into the top plate that I had already installed. And then I use the masonry nails to secure the bottom into the basement floor. I had to build two separate sections of wall because of this post that holds up the beam above. So I do the exact same thing with this small section. And if you didn't notice, around the post, I also doubled up my studs. And this was for two reasons. One, it just reinforces the beam above. And two, it also gives more meat for my handrail bracket. And here you can see that I was still slightly off with my measurement when I installed my top plate. It's an easy fix. I just go in with my Dremel multi-tool and shave off the excess. The last thing is just furring out my other wall that I already had built to the new wall's location. I go ahead and just do this by using a 1x and some paint sticks to shim it out to the right depth. Now we're to the drywall stage. This is pretty straightforward. I just have to make sure I cut out for the light switch. But then, as always, I have to cause myself more work. I never do things the most simple way. Here, I'm working on getting my second piece into place, but I can't move it into place because of the low-lying pipes. These low-lying pipes just won't let me get my piece into position so I can slide it into place. The only way I can fix this is by removing the panel that I already installed and doing it all again. In the end, it all worked out. This piece just needs a little bit of shaving off of the top right corner so I can get it flush and tight along the whole up and down seam. Of course, the narrow end section went in like a breeze. And then I just have to do that 1-inch strip that I furred out. Another thing I decided to do was to secure the stairway to the wall. So I'm just using 3.5-inch deck screws to screw through the stringer into the studs that I've marked locations on. This will reduce squeaking as you walk up and down the stairs. Now we can finally get started on the real reason we are here, the stairway handrail. I'm going to install my hardware at 34 inches up from the stair tread. Then I mark a straight line diagonally from the top to the bottom of the stairway. This is in order to find the best locations in order to install my rail supports. I want to make sure that they get into a stud in order to actually be supportive to the person using it. I put my 2x6 on the stairway stringer in order to make my design plan. This way I can use my angle square to make my cut lines right off of the floor. Or, in regards to the top, I'll be using the top tread plate. Now that I have a plan for my handrail, I start installing my hardware. I'm going to use black pipe pieces. These end up not being exactly the same measurement and distance apart because it was more important for these flanges to be installed where there is the best backing support to them. It is more important to have this support than it is to have exact measurements between each bracket. I was hoping not to have to make a Lowe's run today, but the pipe nipples that I have on hand are just a little bit too long. Using these would push the rail out into the walkway space just a little bit too much. And even though it's only a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch difference that I can save by going to a smaller size, I just can't let it rest. I have to go to the store and get these shorter pieces. Now that I'm back, I can finish this install. I decided to lube the threads with Big Mama's butter in order to get a couple more turns on the pipe into the flange. When you're looking at the black pipe and the amount of threads that's on there, you would suspect that you'd be able to drive it into the intersecting pieces a lot deeper than I actually am able to do so. I'm hoping this will help me get it a little bit deeper. Now that I got all that worked out, I am liking the depth a lot better. Like I said, that 3/4 of an inch doesn't seem to be a lot, but it's very noticeable when your hand is on the rail. Now I'm going to refocus back on my 2x6 itself. It's a simple design that I marked out, but it does add interest to the look. I go ahead and I cut my ends and I follow that with a good sanding. I want to make sure my 2x6 is real smooth so that you don't get splinters every time you use it, and I'm also wanting to round off all of the edges so that there are no sharp edges that would snag clothing. When installing this handrail, you could just measure and cut your holes and install. I don't want to make any measurement mistakes, so I put my rail back on the stringer to mark out where I want my first top hole to go. Of course, football is making sure I'm doing it right. And then after I use my hole cutter in the right size that the pipe will fit through, I can go ahead and put my rail onto that top pipe in order to find my second hardware location. By moving my rail up and down slightly at the pipe, it leaves a mark for the hole location. I just then need to mark the top. While cutting my holes, I do not go all the way through. I stop short just when the center bit is poking out on the back side. Then I flip my board over to finish the hole cut. Now it's in a perfect location, so I do the exact same thing for the third hole. You have to do this method one at a time because your 2x6 acts like a seesaw. Without that middle hardware hole being cut out, you will actually be popping the board off of your top piece of hardware in order to push it against the bottom pipe for your marks. I cut out my holes 2 inches on center from the top edge of the rail, and this will make my top edge of the rail no higher than 36 inches. The handrail standard is anywhere between 34 and 38 inches. By installing the center of my flanges at the 34 inch, by the time I install my handrail, it will be at the 36 inch mark. Now we just need to install the caps. This is a nice industrial finish to the stairrail, but it also secures everything tight. And voila, we're done. Well, my part is done. It's going to be up to the new homeowners to finish this wall as well as the whole rest of the basement in whichever way they choose. So, what did you think about my handrail? I just really like to try to do things different. And plus, I saved money doing it this way. That 2x6 was under $7, and I had all of the black pipe that I needed on hand already. Or so I thought I had it all on hand. Turns out I didn't like the length of the pipe sections, so I did have to go back and purchased shorter sections. Oh, and I needed to buy the end caps because I didn't have those on hand. But still, all of that was under $20. And while I was at Lowe's, I checked out the price of other handrails. They ranged anywhere from $35 to over $80 for simple average handrails. And of course, any of the nice decorative or bulkier look ones would be above $100 and even above $200. So I really don't think it was a bad deal at all to put this bulky of a handrail in at this length for only approximately $27. Well, that's it for today. So if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, stay safe out there.